Hello and welcome. My name is Rebekah King and I'm the brain changer from Moonbeam Monday Training and Coaching. And I want to welcome you to our masterclass, Lead with Clarity, Trust Your Thinking and Lead Decisively. It is wonderful to have you here today. I thank you for registering and showing up for yourself. I know how valuable your time and energy are. Now, this masterclass in particular is for clever, capable professionals and leaders, the ones that other people come to for support, ideas, and because we get things done, right? From the outside, it looks like you've got it all together, but what often comes with that is that our brains don't switch off, or at least not easily. You're always thinking about work, about your family, probably even your inbox. And I know that you care deeply and you want to do a really good job. But somewhere along the way, that mental load has multiplied. That busy brain that used to serve us, that used to help us actually get through things, it's now keeping us awake at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., running through all of these things that we need to do, or perhaps we didn't get done today, sometimes even conversations that we've had weeks or months ago. And it's not because you're not resilient or because you can't handle things. Part of this is actually generational. We are living with more input, more comparison, more expectations than any generation really that has come before us. And this is what leads to mental overload. And when that happens, the brain reverts to default settings. You overthink decisions, you carry responsibility for everything, and the sharp thinking that has gotten you through in the past or that you've always relied on starts to get a little bit foggy or blurry around the edges. And what can happen is it stops feeling like you've just got a lot on your mind or a lot to do, and it starts feeling like something's not right, like you're the problem. And what I hear a lot is that, oh, I'm just getting older. This is an age thing. Or for we women, I hear a lot, oh, it's perimenopause. I've got menopause brain, brain fog. And of course, that does play a part, but it is more than that. There's a real physiological reason that this happens. And that is because an overloaded brain puts your nervous system on high alert, right? It's scanning, it's sorting, predicting, planning, non-stop. It's always looking for the worst case scenario. Our brain does it really, really well, unfortunately. I kind of liken it to driving your car with your foot on the accelerator, but the handbrake on, right? You still move a little bit. You can still kind of drive, but you're not really moving forward. And eventually what happens is you just burn out the tires, right? And that's what is happening when your brain is constantly on, when you've got this mental overload. So this masterclass isn't about teaching you to push through. I know you can already do that. You've already mastered that, really good at it, right? It's about showing you how to stop second guessing, how to trust yourself again, and how to lead with intention rather than leading from pressure, so that you can finally start working with your brain rather than working against it. Now, as a special gift to you, I will be sending you home with something at the end of today's masterclass. It's a tool designed to help you put what we cover today into practice immediately. So stay to the end of the masterclass and you will receive that. And I am also going to share an invitation for those of you who are ready to go deeper. There's no pressure, it's just an option. And you'll know by the end of this masterclass whether it is for you. So let's just talk about what today is and isn't. All right, so this masterclass, it is not a quick fix. And it's not a motivational talk with mindset hacks. There are no quick fixes. All right, sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but there are no quick fixes. Anyone who tells you otherwise is not being entirely honest with you. And yes, tools like breathing, journaling, mindfulness, these all help. They're very valuable tools. I use them myself, but they are not the whole solution. So I want you to think about today as an intervention. So it's a reset point to help you finally understand what's going on in your own mind and what needs to shift for things to actually change, right? For you to actually move the needle. So here's what we are doing. All right. We're going to be covering 4 problems that I see in high functioning professionals. I'll show you why the things that you've already tried haven't worked. I'm going to walk you through the framework that I use to help people shift deeply wired patterns and gain clarity. And stay to the end, and I'm going to share a very simple brain-based tool that you can use right away. All right, so this is your time. I invite you to take notes if you'd like, but you don't need to catch every single word. The parts that matter will land for you. So take what resonates, leave what doesn't. And if something hits home with you or it feels a little uncomfortable, I encourage you to really embrace that rather than pushing it away, because this is your brain saying, this is the part that matters. You know, change feels uncomfortable to begin with for everyone. I hear a lot of people saying, oh, I'm just not really good at change. Well, actually, no one is to begin with until we learn to embrace it. Change feels uncomfortable because it is unfamiliar. That's all. But growth comes from change. And change always starts with awareness. Now, I know a little bit about, of course, why this masterclass will have piqued your interest. And in recognition of that, I want to briefly share how I came to do this work. I think that's only fair. So about 6 years ago, my life looked very different. I was an outwardly confident person. I always have been. I was a leader in my field, a problem solver. I was great at organizing. I had the house, the car, the overseas holidays, and from the outside, life looked really good. I looked like I had it all together. But what people didn't see was the mental load that I was carrying. I was emotionally exhausted. I was depressed, anxious, overweight, unhealthy, reactive rather than responsive. And I was stuck in what I now call high functioning burnout. I was just unable to switch my brain off. And I would take on so many things. I'd say yes to everything, take on too much, work late just to prove that I could keep up. And I genuinely believed that's just what it took to be successful. And, I was watching other people around me getting things done. They made it look so easy, being successful. And it didn't seem like they were killing themselves to make it happen. So I just figured, well, maybe I had to work a little bit harder to get the same result. And eventually, I realized that I wasn't different to everyone else. What my brain was doing wasn't unusual. It was just overloaded. And it wasn't from having too much on. That was part of the problem, but it was actually everything I'd been carrying underneath for years. These old beliefs, unspoken pressures, the drive to be everything to everyone. And it had built up over time. And I wasn't just tired, I was out of alignment. I'd created this life that to others from the outside looked really successful, but it didn't actually feel like me on the inside. And when you're not aligned with who you really are, even the smallest little things start to feel really heavy. And so that moment of awareness, it changed everything for me. And it led me to study neuro-linguistic programming, hypnosis, and the neuroscience of behavior. And through that work, I retrained my mind, not to do more. I didn't need to do more, but to think differently, to think better. And the result, well, this is me now. I don't live with depression and anxiety anymore. I don't try to please everyone all the time. I trust myself. I feel clear, happy, fulfilled. And honestly, there's not much that rattles me anymore. And to be clear, I'm not saying that there's nothing that ever stresses me out. I am still human, things still happen, but it is much easier now. When those difficult times come, I move through them a lot easier and a lot quicker now. And this is what I now help my clients with. I work with clever, capable professionals whose minds just won't switch off even though they try. And I help them change the way that their mind works so that they lead with clarity, stop second guessing, and finally sleep through the night. So I imagine that sounds really good, right? Okay, so let's get started. Before we can lead with clarity, we need to understand what is clouding it, right? What's really happening in our mind when it feels cluttered and scattered or we're switched on all the time. And here's something that might surprise you when we're talking about burnout. Burnout doesn't just happen because you're doing too much. It happens when you start drifting away from who you really are. As I said earlier, I wasn't aligned. When your actions, your decisions, and energy are out of alignment with your values and identity, your brain starts to push back. And over time, I've noticed 4 common patterns that show up when professionals reach that point, when their minds are overloaded, their clarity is gone, and everything starts to feel heavy or they lose direction. So I want to take a look at those with you. So the first common pattern is a lack of clarity, right? So this is where your mind feels foggy, you're moving, but not necessarily moving forward. So it's kind of like you're ticking all the boxes on autopilot, but you're not sure if they even matter anymore. So you might look at your to-do list and think, well, why am I still doing this? But you keep going anyway because it's what you've always done or because you feel like you have to, it's what's expected. But while you're doing all of this, who are you actually trying to be? How do you want to feel to lead, at work and at home? Because this is relevant to your professional space, to your work as a leader there, but it's also relevant to your personal life. When that part of you gets lost, your decisions become reactive rather than a response. And your brain flips into autopilot and it starts running the show, whether you like it or not. And I worked with a senior manager in marketing recently who she was at this point, she couldn't actually make a decision without asking 6 people first. She needed that validation. And it wasn't because she didn't know what to do. She's very capable, very intelligent leader. But because these stories in her head had become louder than her instincts. She didn't trust herself anymore. She didn't have clarity around things. And once she reconnected to what mattered to her, not to everyone else, her clarity returned. She started trusting herself again. And that's what clarity really is. It's not more information. It's less interference from your autopilot brain. And that client, this is something that she sent me. She says the work that we've done together has been truly life-changing. And she sent me this message not long after we started working together. It was like, she was making decisions. She wasn't caring what people think. And, she was getting stuff done, right? So this was a massive change from when we first met. So that's what happens when we find clarity. The second pattern I see is a pattern in itself. It's repeating the same patterns. So this one shows up when you've done all the things. Perhaps you've got the color-coded planner, you've got the routines, you've read the self-help books, you might have even had therapy in the past, but nothing has really changed. You're stuck in a loop. It never really changing the outcome. And some people say it's like just existing or surviving. And you tell yourself things like, if I slow down, I'll fall behind. Or if I say no, I'm going to let someone down. Or if I don't hold it all together, everything's going to fall apart. I'll fall in a heap. I'll never be able to get going again. Now, you might not be saying these things to yourself consciously, but these are actually the stories running beneath the surface. So it's not a time management problem. This is a belief problem. And you can't create new results from old beliefs. So it's kind of like trying to install new software on an old computer without updating the operating system, right? You can click all the right buttons, but your computer's going to keep crashing, not because the new program is bad or faulty, but because the system underneath simply can't run it yet, right? And that's what happens when we try to fix behavior without shifting the belief. The third pattern I see is no strategy. Now, this one's really sneaky because most professionals think they have a strategy. But what they really have is a mix of what's worked before, what they've read online, and what feels urgent in the moment. It's often, though, just putting out fires. It's firefighting, right? Rather than working proactively. And without a clear internal strategy, you end up overthinking simple things and underthinking the big ones. And that's when your unconscious mind is running the show instead of you. When you say things like, well, that's just the way I am, or I can't help it, it's just how my mind works. You notice habits, you've got these habits that aren't good for you, but you can't seem to stop them. So you have no strategy. Your brain just does whatever it wants to do. And one of my clients said to me, actually, I've always been strategic at work. I just never realized that I needed a strategy for my own life or for my own mind. And so she took what she was really good at from work, and that was creating strategy. That was her job. And she applied it to her mind, to her life. And once she did that, she stopped reacting from stress and she started responding with intention. And that's when her leadership style changed. Her team noticed, her family even noticed, and she noticed herself how different she felt in life in general. And even when stressful things happen in her life now, as they do, because they happen for all of us, she is able to move through them so much quicker and easier. And so the fourth pattern I see is going it alone. And this one, it often hides behind independence. We love to be independent. We're the capable ones, the reliable ones, the ones that hold things together. And, often from the outside, like I mentioned about myself, it all looks great. But the thing is, that same self-sufficiency that helped you succeed in the past, it can also be the thing that keeps you stuck. Because when you're in your own pattern, you're actually too close to it to see it clearly. We need to be able to step back, step out of the picture, to look at things from a different perspective. And you're probably really good at doing this for other people, I imagine. But when it comes to ourselves, it is hard to do. And for most professionals, that autopilot looks like overthinking, perfectionism, or control. And if you think about it, Olympic athletes, they have coaches. World leaders have advisors, even rock stars, the likes of Beyonce, they have a team behind them. They make it look effortless, but they have a team of people behind them. So why do we think that we have to do it all on our own? The answer there is that we don't. A corporate leader that I worked with said something that really stuck with me. She said, I didn't realize how heavy everything had become until you finally helped me see it. So it was just shifting the perspective. It was like she'd been carrying this really heavy, invisible backpack, and she was finally able to take it off. It gave her massive relief. And everything after that felt lighter and easier. She could finally see what was getting in the way, creating reactions rather than that intentional response, and what was overloading her. And that's when things really began to shift because she stopped carrying it all alone. So I want you to just take a moment to think. Which one of those four feels most familiar to you right now? So is it a lack of clarity? Is it repeating the same patterns? Is it that you don't have any real strategy? Or have you been trying to do it all on your own, thinking that you should be able to do it on your own? So just have a think, 1, 2, 3, or 4. And whichever one you've landed on, this is your starting point, right? This is your brain's way of just tapping you on the shoulder and saying, something here needs to change. And it's not just reflective. This is the personal entry point to change for you, because the moment you name it, you give yourself the power to change it. So let's go a little deeper here. Let's look at what's really going on in your brain when it's overloaded. Not just the what, but the why. Because once you understand how your brain is wired and how that wiring shapes your thoughts, feelings, and behavior, you can start to change it. All right, so let's look at the neuroscience underneath this. I want you to imagine that this morning when you were making breakfast, you burned the toast. All right, what happens when we burn the toast? The smoke alarm goes off usually. It does in my house, and it's instant, it's loud, it's often at a very inconvenient time when we're running late. Well, this is your amygdala, right? This is the part of your brain designed to keep you safe. It doesn't stop and ask, is the house on fire? Or have you just burned the toast? Right? It just reacts. Worst case scenario, get out of the house, something's on fire. Now, when you live with constant pressure, high expectations, deadlines, too much going on, that smoke alarm doesn't get a chance to rest, right? It starts going off at every little thing, like a piece of fluff sailing past, a fly that lands on it, a piece of dust in the air, or of course, in your amygdala's case, it could be a full inbox. It could be a tricky email that you don't know how to respond, or it could be a conversation with a team member that, excuse me, that didn't land very well. And soon your brain is on high alert all day, every day, even at night. And the problem is that when this alarm goes off, it steals energy from your prefrontal cortex. So this is the part of your brain responsible for clear thinking, for decision making, and emotional regulation. These are all the things that we need to be a good leader, both at home and at work, right? To perform our best. But when this alarm is constantly going off, the prefrontal cortex isn't getting a look in. And this is when stress becomes a default setting, right? Most of us think of stress as an emotion, but it's actually a state. Your body and your brain don't care whether the threat is a lion chasing you or a deadline. Right? It does not differentiate between the two. They respond the same way. It pumps adrenaline and cortisol through your body. That narrows your focus. You are essentially now in survival mode. And the problem with this is that state, when that state becomes familiar, and by that I mean you're feeling regularly stressed, your brain starts confusing stress with safety. So it kind of goes, oh, well, this feels normal. This must be who I am now. I should stay in this state because I'm comfortable with it. I know it's probably not very good for me, but at least I know what the outcome will be because it loves familiarity. And that's how mental overload becomes a habit. And that's why you can likely solve everybody else's problems at work, but you can't see your own clearly because your brain is in protect mode rather than perspective mode. And this is why awareness is always step one. You can't change what you can't see. But here's where most people get stuck. Awareness alone doesn't create change. You need to do something with what you've become aware of. And that's where we shift from awareness to strategy. So once you've got awareness, the next step is applying it in a way that actually sticks. So I shared the 4 key patterns that I come across. There are also 4 solutions or 4 key focus areas that help people shift from feeling overloaded to feeling clear in their head, trusting their thinking, and leading decisively. And this is what you could call your clarity formula. All right, so the first part of the clarity formula here is personalized techniques. Now, this is not about giving you more to do. All right, it's about giving you something that fits. Most mindset tools, they're surface level, they're generic checklists that don't account for where you are right now, because we are all at different points in our self-help or our growth journey, and that's why change often doesn't stick. So let me show you what I mean. I want to introduce you to Sarah, not her real name, not her real photo, but Sarah is a brilliant senior leader. She is highly respected by her peers. But underneath, when she came to me, she felt like a fraud. And the term that she used, which I'm sure you'll be familiar with, is imposter syndrome. Right? She'd lie awake at night. She'd be replaying conversations in her head, afraid that she'd missed something or let someone down. And her words were, any minute now, they'll figure out that I'm not as good as they think I am. And she was trying so hard. She was doing all the things, including something quite common, which was repeating affirmations like, I am confident and powerful. But the moment she'd walk away from doing that in the mirror, there was this little voice in her head that she'd hear that was like, are you though? And then it would show her all the reasons that she wasn't confident and powerful, all the times that she hadn't been confident. And that's the thing about affirmations. They only work if your unconscious already agrees with them. Otherwise, they reinforce that very belief that you are trying to change. And when I started working together, we uncovered the real issue. It was a hidden belief. Now, she couldn't consciously hear this, but this is what we identified. And that belief was, I have to prove my worth in every room I walk in. And we identified where this belief originated from. It's often not what you think, but we were able to identify that. And that belief was driving her overthinking, this overloaded mind, perfectionism, and exhaustion. And so we used a technique that works with the unconscious mind to rewrite that, not just talk about it, but change that internal story. And within a couple of weeks, she was sleeping soundly. She was no longer on edge. And she said, I don't feel like an imposter anymore, Beck. I know that I deserve to be in that room. And that is the power of personalized techniques rather than quick fixes. They meet you where you are and they create deep, lasting change from the inside out. Okay, so the next key focus area is a tailored strategy. So this is where we stop the firefighting, right? And we get to the source of why our brain keeps getting stuck in old habits. And this is where I want to introduce you to my C.L.E.A.R method. It's a practical framework for rewiring your thinking patterns so that clarity becomes the default setting. All right, so I'm going to take you through this quite quickly. C.L.E.A.R method, it starts with C. So the first one is catch the conditioning. So before we change anything, we need to see what's actually running the show. Now we all have unconscious mental programs. I've mentioned some of those beliefs before. They might be things like, if I slow down, I'll fall behind. Or I can't relax until everything's done. Or I should be able to handle this on my own. And these seem reasonable, but I'm sure you can hear they are not true. We know they're not true, yet your brain's internal filter, the reticular activating system, is constantly looking for proof to reinforce them. So it's like your social media algorithm, right? Whatever you engage with, you see more of. That just happened to me last week. I was buying some new bathers. I've bought some, but now my feed is flooded with bathers. It's the same with your thoughts. So if your belief is, I have to be across everything to be valuable, then your brain will keep feeding you reasons to stay stuck in overwhelm and overload, even if it's burning you out. The L is for look at the cost. So once we've spotted the conditioning, we need to ask, what is this belief costing me? Now, I don't just mean financially, although that is often part of it, but in time, energy. What's it costing you emotionally, physically, in your relationships, or missing out on opportunities? Until we link pain to staying the same, the brain will not move. It sees this current pattern as safe, even if it's not sustainable. And when you connect the dots between your beliefs and what they're draining from your life, whether that be joy, connection, sleep, confidence, your brain gets the message then, right? Something needs to change. The E stands for examine the payoff. So if a belief has stuck around for a long time, and it usually has, it has been doing something for you, even if it's unhelpful. So in NLP, we call this secondary gain, right? Maybe a belief of I have to be across everything gives you control, and control makes you feel safe. Maybe I should be able to handle it on my own protects you from disappointment, perhaps being disappointed by others. Or maybe if I slow down, I'll fall behind, keeps you tied to being the reliable one, which is a nice feeling, isn't it? We're getting validation from other people. It makes us feel good. So these beliefs, they don't come from a place of weakness. They actually come from a place of protection. They are your amygdala. Remember the smoke alarm? They're your amygdala keeping you on high alert, trying to keep you safe, not satisfied. It's not what your brain does. It doesn't keep you satisfied. It keeps you safe. That is its one and only job. But what once protected you might now be holding you back and creating this overload. We move to A, which is activate a new belief. So once your brain sees the old pattern and what it's costing you, it's open to change. But we can't jump from I'm barely holding it together to I'm unstoppable, right? It's just too far a leap. So we talk about building a bridge, and in this case, we need to build a believable bridge. So a first step might be something like I'm learning to trust myself again, or rest helps me perform better, or support makes me strategic. So I want you to think about it like climbing a ladder. We can't go from the bottom rung to the top rung in one leap. We're not Wonder Woman. We have to actually climb one rung at a time. And that's what we do here. That's how we create lasting changes with believable, repeatable thoughts that stick. And lastly, the R is rewire with repetition. So change doesn't actually happen in that aha moment when we realize something. It actually happens in what you do afterward. So each time you catch that old thought and choose a new one, you carve out a new neural pathway. And of course, at first it can feel unfamiliar because change feels a little bit uncomfortable and a little unfamiliar. It's kind of like walking a new track in the forest, but with repetition, if we walk that path over and over again with repetition, it becomes clearer, it becomes well worn. And that's what happens in our mind as well. It becomes second nature. And that's when clarity becomes your new default. You're no longer overloaded. You have a clear head. You trust your thinking. And it's not because you've pushed harder and you've done more, but because you have trained your brain to work better. And this is exactly what we do inside the Life Reset program. We apply this framework to your real patterns with structure and support so that it actually sticks. And I'm going to share a little bit more about that with you shortly, including how you can get $500 off the program. So the third part of this formula is having a custom toolkit. So we've talked a little bit about tools already, so I'll keep this relatively short. But what I want to share with you is that most people I work with, when they come to me, they're not short on tools. They've tried all the usual things. Many of them are great. As I said earlier, I use them too. But what we uncover is it's not that the tools don't work, but it's that they're being used like a quick fix, as I mentioned earlier. And these quick fixes, they're tempting because they create the illusion of progress. They make us feel better for a moment without the discomfort of real change. So we don't ever have to get really uncomfortable, but they're kind of like putting a bucket underneath a leaking ceiling and calling it plumbing. Right? We know that that's only a temporary solution. We're managing the symptom, not addressing the source, the leaky pipe. And the real danger is that quick fixes keep you busy enough to feel like you're doing something, but not deep enough to actually change anything. So you need a custom toolkit, knowing what tool to use, when, and ideally using them proactively. And the last part in this formula is personalized support. So even with the best strategies and the best tools, without consistent support, it's really easy to slip back into old patterns. And honestly, this is the part that most people skip because they think they should be able to do it by themselves. And I get why. You know, we're proud people. We're problem solvers. We're the person that other people lean on or come to. So it can feel uncomfortable, even unwarranted sometimes, to ask for support. And I often hear leaders and managers saying things like, well, I'm the boss. I shouldn't have to ask for help. I should be able to deal with this. But actually, a good boss knows when to do exactly that. Ask for help, ask for support. And it doesn't make you weak, it actually makes you realistic. And the people that create the deepest, most lasting change, they don't do it alone. As I mentioned earlier, you know, Olympic athletes, they don't decide, well, I'm smart, I'm capable, I'm pretty sporty. I should be able to get myself to the Olympics, right? They don't say that. They hire a coach, they have a strategy. CEOs have business advisors, even coaches have coaches. Because when you're in your own pattern, your own story, those stories in your head, it's really hard to see clearly. And real support is someone who can help you see what you can't. And earlier I mentioned that toward the end of this session, I'd share an invitation for those of you who are ready to go deeper and shift the mental overload and perform at your best once and for all. And so I'm going to take you through that. There's no pressure, it's just an option. But if something that I've shared with you today has deeply resonated, if it's saying to you, this is the missing piece of the puzzle, then it is time to listen. So, the Life Reset Coaching Program, it is a deeper guided version of what you've seen today. So this isn't surface level mindset or talk therapy. This is a deep, personalized brain-based work that rewires how you think, feel, and respond. So it's a 6-month coaching, private coaching experience designed for high-functioning professionals who feel mentally overloaded, who want to operate at a higher level. Coaching that helps you think differently, feel calm, clear, and confident. And here's what it looks like. So over 6 months, we work together privately and in depth online. So first, we decode your patterns. So what's driving your thinking? What's driving your habits, your stress responses? And we do this without digging endlessly into the past. We find instead the leverage points, excuse me, that create immediate relief and clarity. Then we reconnect you to what matters. So not what's expected or what's convenient or what you've always done, but what's real for you. And this creates trust in yourself. It creates confidence and direction. And then we rewire what has been holding you back. So we use powerful neurolinguistic and hypnosis techniques to install new empowering patterns to help you create the person you want to be. And finally, we anchor those shifts in with support and repetition so that your head becomes clear, you trust your thinking, and you lead decisively to perform at your best. And here's what's included when you join the Life Reset. So it's 6 private online coaching sessions. And we do that over 6 months. And the reason is we want to give your brain time to integrate what we do together. It's also included is 2 custom hypnotic audio tracks. These are designed specifically for your goals and your wiring. And there's also unlimited voice and email support between sessions. Now, all of this, as you can see, is already valued at over $4,000. But when you join from this particular masterclass, I'm also including these exclusive bonuses for you. So you get access to our Reset and Recharge online course. So this is a short, practical course to help you calm your nervous system, reduce mental overload, and feel like yourself again, even on those busy days. And the second bonus that I'm offering here is an extra private coaching session with me. So this gives us additional time together to work through anything unexpected that might pop up and to really maximize your results. And so you're getting close to $5,000 worth of value, but the program is only $2,997 plus GST. But when you join from this webinar, we're actually offering this at $2,497. So this is how you get that additional $500 off, only if you have registered and participated in this masterclass today. So if you do prefer to pay monthly, that's okay. We do have a payment plan. Please note that the payment plan does not include the discount. That $500 discount is available to you when you pay in full upfront. Now, we also have a satisfaction guarantee. We're here to help you create real, lasting change, not just surface level inspiration. And that's why this experience comes with a satisfaction guarantee. So what that means is that if you complete the program, you action all the agreed steps, and you still don't reach a mutually agreed outcome, we'll keep working with you until you do. That's how confident we are in the process. So if something is saying to you, this is what I've been looking for, then I invite you to take the next step, which is simply scanning that QR code or clicking the link that's available to you, and we will get started. And this is not like buying a lottery ticket where the odds of winning are really low. The Life Reset is not a gamble. Okay, this is a strategy. And like I mentioned earlier, awareness opens the door, but it's action that changes your life. And as we wrap up, I just want you to take a moment to notice what has landed for you. So you've seen that mental overload has structure, and so does the solution. You've seen how beliefs, patterns, and wiring can be rewired with the right method, with the right support, and with a strategy. And importantly, you've seen what becomes possible when you start working with your brain rather than against it. And this work, it changes lives like it did for me and like it has done for so many of my clients. And I haven't forgotten, I did promise you a gift at the beginning of the masterclass. So to support you in this work, I'm gifting you the 5-minute conscious brain method. This is my method, a practical tool to help you reset your thinking in real time. Now, I introduced this to a masterclass group of mine just last night, and we had some incredible shifts and changes within the session. It's not the whole solution, but it will absolutely get you started. And so I wanted to gift that to you today. All right, so if today has given you that quiet knowing in your mind, like it's time to do something and to do something different, then the Life Reset is ready when you are. And this special offer, as I mentioned, is only available to you through this particular masterclass, and it will end soon. So that brings us to the end of Lead with Clarity. Thank you so much for registering, for giving yourself the time to learn all about your brain, how to clear your head, trust your thinking, and lead decisively. I look forward to hearing from you. Please get in touch if you have questions. My name is Rebekah King, and I am the Brain Changer. Thank you.